What is gravity?
You have no idea. Okay, next question. This is called gravity. We can describe gravity. We can say what it does to other things. This is called gravity.
Neil, I gotta say, you're totally blowing my mind right now.
That's what I do. I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, bitch.
That's what he does, son. He's Neil deGrasse Tyson, bitches. What's up, guys? John TheMorgile here, checking in with you live from Honey Path, South Kakalaka. Today is Sunday, December the 1st, and it's 2024, 2024. I hope y'all are having a blessed and wonderful day, great weekend, and happy winter to you. I don't know about you guys, but over here in South Kakalaka, we are freezing our nuts off. So yeah, I'll take it though. I'll take it. It's better than all that damn heat we've been having though, right? So yeah, man. I know y'all are probably still piling in, so I'll just kill a bit of time before I get into the meat of today's stream, and so y'all don't have to look at the extreme close-up of me fish. Let me just run a little slideshow in the background for you guys, and I will mute it as well. Excuse me. Don't let me forget to unmute it. What is the problem here? Having technical difficulties here, you guys. There we go. All right. So while you're piling in, if y'all could please just throw up a comment in the chat there and let me know if y'all can see and hear me. And you know, I'm so sorry, you guys, but I hear little Bagoodle, little Boogaloo shrimping business in the bedroom over there, just crying her butt off. So she hears me in here live streaming and she wants to hang out too, probably. She's not going poops because I just ain't got time for that, and I already took her. Let me go get Bagoodle. I'll be right back, you guys. Hold on. Oh, Lord, I'm coming, Noodles. Damn. Come here. You can come in here with me, Boogaloo. You don't think she's spoiled rotten, do you? Okay, sorry. Hang on, baby. Let me get my headphones back on. Opa. You don't think she's spoiled rotten, do you? Okay. Good girl, baby. I love you too, Mom. Okay, but you can't sit here for long because you're gonna tear the headphones off my head. Say hi to Lily, everybody. There goes little Bagoodle. Get in your bed, Mama. Come on. You're getting fatter. Whoops, sorry, baby. You're getting fatter. Okay. Yeah, she's getting a little fatter. These slides are from Baalbek in Lebanon, but I just thought it was a cool slideshow, so it's not necessarily pertinent to what I'm going to be talking about here for the next few minutes. But, you know, it is sort of all connected, isn't it? These megaliths, these monolithic sites. Baalbek in Lebanon, I think this one we're looking at here is like the biggest single quarried stone that was probably intended for like a foundation stone ever discovered, still in the process of being excavated, right? So it's definitely an interesting slideshow, but my research has sort of taken me into a sort of bizarre position to where I don't know what to make of everything. But as I'm trying to put everything together and make some sense of it, you know, there's definitely a few videos here that I want to put together. But today I'm just going to try sort of, I don't know, going through my research with you guys and I don't know, seeing what comes out of it. Already in the preliminary of this thing, you know, putting a few things together for the stream today, I found a pretty interesting conundrum. So let me just start. I'm going to start this by going through sort of a timeline. And I was putting together a graphic of this timeline for you guys, but I just didn't have time. I for some reason, I can't get Adobe InDesign to work on my computer. So I can use Photoshop for most everything and it's fine. But certain things, you know, putting together like timelines or certain graphics, it's just so much easier for with InDesign, or like even if I had Quark Express. But so anyway, I'm just making excuses for myself, but I gave myself 6 hours today to put together the stuff for the stream. And one of those hours I spent just working on the timeline and, you know, like the graphic for the timeline. And I didn't even get halfway done with it. And again, it's because I'm using Photoshop. So anyway, I would have a nice graphic to throw up. I mean, I guess I can throw up what I've got, but I think it's better if y'all just look at the slideshow in the background. Again, the slideshow in the background is Baalbek in Lebanon, and none of the stuff we're going to talk about is pertinent to that particular slideshow directly. But I think that there is something to say about the megalithic sites the world over and the similarities between them. Even those big foundation stones that I just mentioned in Baalbek and Lebanon are, in my opinion, very similar to some of the foundation stones that you find at the Pantheon, or was it the Parthenon? I get the two confused. But there are definitely similarities in the sort of Greco-Roman style of megaliths that we find just everywhere. Not just in Greece and in Rome, but in the United States and in Lebanon and just everywhere. It's all over the damn world. But one thing that I wanted to sort of lean towards today is because my research always keeps bringing me back to the Americas, right? The New World, because it's interesting. And I've mentioned this before, but they, you know, the people that have put together the historical narrative that we call fact today, they were constricted in terms of their timeline with the Americas. So we're talking about North America, South America, and Central America. Not necessarily in that order. But one of the things that we in America seem to just overlook all the time is Greenland. And if a little further east than that also is Iceland, right? So like when it comes to Greenland, well, let's back up the wagon. So Iceland was allegedly discovered, you know, by European Spaniards or whatever, the Europeans. And allegedly, well, I'm just making a fool of myself. So allegedly, Iceland was first mentioned in 325 BC, attributed to the Greek explorer Pytheas, who made this epic voyage of exploration to northwestern Europe around 325 BC. He mentions a land called Ultima Thule, or Thule, in the far east north. And he said it was a 6 days sailing north of Britain and near a frozen sea. Okay, so again, we're talking about Iceland here. And I will pull up a map a little bit later that just kind of shows, you know, the proximity between like Europe, and you've got Iceland, which is way off in the north to the west of Europe, obviously. And then like to the south and west of that, then you have Greenland. Greenland was allegedly discovered in 982 AD. So, you know, many centuries after the alleged discovery of Iceland. Okay. Now, Greenland was discovered allegedly 982 by Eric the Red, a Norwegian who was exiled from Iceland for manslaughter. Okay. So now, saying Greenland, okay, again, we're just sort of following this timeline. Greenland in 1126, you have this Gardar Cathedral ruins, which was allegedly built in, again, 1126. And it wasn't discovered by like Western eyes until 1926. Okay, so like 800 years after the thing was allegedly built, it was excavated, like they had to dig it up out of the mud. Now, I thought it was kind of funny because when I was searching the Google for this particular cathedral that is in ruins, you know, I searched Google, when was this thing destroyed? And the Google AI generated response was kind of funny. And so this is a direct quote from Google's generative AI, generic ass AI. Gardar, and I'm probably saying that wrong, but the Gardar Cathedral in Greenland was not destroyed, but its foundations have been excavated and mark the site of the cathedral. Gardar Cathedral was and again, this is still a quote from Google's generative AI, was a medieval Latin church built in the 12th century from local red sandstone. It was originally part of the Archdiocese of Bremen, but became part of the Norwegian Diocese of Nidaros in 1152. The diocesan settlement became extinct in the 15th century, end quote. So why is that so funny to me? Well, because of let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I'm sorry, y'all. That'll just start aggravating the crap out of me the whole time. Yeah, okay, there we go. So why is this so funny? But it's because of the historical fact, that Greenland was allegedly discovered by Western eyes in around 982. Okay, so like right before the first millennia kicked off. This grand cathedral was allegedly built in 1126. And then the discovered ruins, then the ruins were discovered in the 1920s. So like it was built, and then at some point after it was built, it was turned into ruins, and it was also buried by meters of mud. But according to Google AI, it wasn't destroyed. It just became extinct, right? I mean, that's just so weird to me. But so like, let's just focus on this for a second, and I will pull up. I've got some slides of all this stuff. So let me pull this up real quick. How am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? Oh, I know how I'll do it. I will upload them to Riverside, and I guess I'll plug Riverside real quick while we're talking about this. So if you guys like the sort of feel and layout of this stream, and if you're thinking about doing live streaming or even recording or video editing of your own, definitely consider using Riverside FM. In the description box below there, I have an affiliate link where I believe you get some kind of a deal, and it helps me out too. And I'll tell you what, I love the crap out of Riverside. I shopped around for probably like a dozen different platforms. I've used OBS, and I just never really got very good with OBS, and I didn't like it. It wasn't very user friendly, but I also never had anyone to teach me how to use it, and so I never got good with OBS. Now, the thing about Riverside is everything I just said about OBS is the same with Riverside. So nobody ever taught me anything. I've only just kind of like self-taught and did a few tutorials or whatever myself, and super intuitive. Like I'm not saying I'm an expert at Riverside, but I feel like, I'm very comfortable with it after just a few streams. So again, if you are thinking about, becoming a content creator, or if you already are and you are thinking about switching your live streaming platform or even your video editing stuff, I'll be very honest with you. I have not used Riverside for any editing yet. I do that with Sony Vegas Pro, but I'm going to try to do some editing. I have been trying to do some video editing with Riverside, and I'm not saying I'm struggling with it, but it's also not what I'm familiar with. So anyway, link below to the affiliate link for Riverside. And if you have any questions, hit me up. So, and like I said, I can't walk and breathe at the same time. So I'm going to have to shut the hell up while I upload these few slides over to Riverside. Oh, I guess I can't. Oh, you can't upload JPEGs. Okay, so I'll just do it the way that I was going to do it originally. Sorry, y'all. I'm going to reread it. And anyway, salute. Cheers. Nostrovia. Chien for the Greeks out there. Yeah, I've got a bunch of slides. The one that we are talking about is the Gardar Cathedral ruins, right? Yeah. There we go. Okay, let me share this with you guys, and then I will continue on. There we go. Okay, so this is, I'm probably saying this wrong, Gardar Cathedral ruins in Igaliku, Greenland, again, founded in 1126. So, you know, it's not really much to speak of, but it's ruins, right? And I've got another slide here. I thought this was kind of funny. So when you look the place up on Google, it says here it's permanently closed. So I'm not sure if that's like if they're saying that because it's ruins or like you can't even go there as a tourist. I don't know what do they mean by that, but it says it's permanently closed. So any Icelanders out there that have access or that's, you know, you're relatively close by to this site, I'd love to know what they mean by permanently closed. Like, are they talking about you just can't go there, or because it's a ruins, you're not going to go catch a Sunday sermon there? Like, is that what they mean? You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just stupid or something. I don't know. Y'all tell me. Never been to Iceland. And I'm probably saying that wrong too, right? But here's another slide. I just found there's just really interesting stuff here around this site. So like these sort of megalithic etchings or whatever are certainly not as professionally. Hold on, let me let these dogs get this out of their system. Sorry. Oh, that wasn't Lily, by the way. But what I was saying is these sort of etchings here are certainly not as professional or like as aesthetically pleasing or whatever, aesthetically symmetrical as some of the stuff that we find in like ancient Egypt or whatever, but still very impressive nonetheless. And it's interesting because, you know, 1126. You know, if you compare that to other things that were allegedly going on, you know, around the world at the same time, it's just a sort of interesting thought. And then one more slide for this Gardar Cathedral ruins. You have these sort of, what do you call these things where it's like the T-shaped? I want to say cairn, but it's not cairn. It's one of those, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but this is the thing. This is what we were talking about, right? So when we're talking about the Gardar Cathedral in Greenland, that Google's generic ass AI said, you know, when I asked why was it destroyed or who destroyed it or what happened to it, you know, I verbatim asked when was it destroyed, and Google's AI said it wasn't destroyed. And again, so here's the quote. I'll read the quote again to that query, and this is the Google AI's response. Gardar Cathedral in Greenland was not destroyed, but its foundations have been excavated and mark the site of the cathedral, right? Okay, so that's enough said there. But okay, so Greenland was discovered, you know, the area was discovered in 982 by Eric the Red. And allegedly 200 years later, they built this cathedral, this Gardar Cathedral, where you just saw those slides of it. But then again, Google's going to say, okay, fast forward to 1926, from 1126, when the thing was excavated. But Google says that it was never destroyed. It was just turned into ruins and buried under meters of mud, but not destroyed, right? So that's just so weird to me. I don't know. Like maybe I'm missing something big here, you guys, but I don't know. that just seems kind of weird to me, man. I don't know. What do y'all think? And let me check in on you guys on the chat just to make sure that I'm not sitting here talking to myself this whole time. Steven Shuck says, have it stuffed. I thought about it, but I don't swing that way, bro. No, I'm kidding. Concrete says Nephilim. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Sarah Fitzgerald? How you doing there? Milwaukee's best? No, sir. Coors Banquet Gold. I really never. I mean, I used to mess with the Beast because it was super cheap. You know what I mean? Like if you only had $6, you could still get a 12-pack of the Beast, right? More of a Guinness Extra Stout, man. But I can never find it locally. You know, I have to go way out of town to get Guinness Extra Stout, and without my car, that's kind of tough. Anyway, yeah, so I'm assuming that y'all can hear and see me okay. Nordic countries are depressed. What do you mean depressed? Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it. Alrighty. So I'm just going to assume that everything is going copacetic in the stream-wise. So let's continue on with the timeline that I was just sort of reading out to you guys that I do not have any sort of graphic to show. Actually, I totally do though. Like I can totally show you the beginning of the graphic. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. So, you know, again, 325 BC, Iceland discovered. Happy birthday, Yahashua. 982 AD, Greenland discovered. 1126 AD, Gardar ruins are founded. And then, okay, so yeah, that's kind of a non sequitur, right? You thinking, what is this guy talking about? Machu Picchu and Gardar ruins in Greenland in the same sort of timeline. But the reason that they're in the same timeline is because the dates are so approximately, you know, close. Especially when we're talking about this. So like Machu Picchu built in 1438, and then the Yedikule, if I'm saying that wrong, the Yedikule Starfort was built in 1458. So just to sort of, well, let me continue with my notes here, and y'all just can sort of follow along with that stupid timeline if you want. But okay, so 1438, Machu Picchu. Most recent archaeologists believe that Machu Picchu was constructed as an estate for the Inca emperor, whose name was Pachacuti in 1438. The Inca built the estate around 1450-ish, but abandoned it allegedly a century later at the time of the Spanish conquest. Now, according to the new AMS radiocarbon dating, it was allegedly occupied from 1420 to 1532. Now, if you're not familiar with Machu Picchu, it's something that I've been fascinated with for as long as I can remember. I remember learning about Machu Picchu probably in like middle school or something like that, and just being absolutely fascinated by it. So I've got a few slides of that as well. Close out some of these. Okay, so there is Machu Picchu. That's sort of an overview of the temple district. It's just beautiful terraces up, you know, I think it's like 8,000 feet up. I've got data on it. I'll read to you. So, you know, it's just such a beautiful place. I've always been fascinated with it. The megalithic stonework is phenomenal. You know, they have those sorts of like asymmetrical joints that somehow you know managed to stand the test of time and you know earthquakes over hundreds of years. But so here's Machu Picchu, you know, again another megalithic site. This is in Peru, supposedly built in around 1438. Here's another one. Awesome. It's just so awesome. I mean, it seems to me like this here is pretty good evidence for some sort of vitrification of these stones. So like you know, for a peoples that allegedly didn't have very much technology, it appears that they could like melt stone. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Machu Picchu is freaking awesome, but again, the dates are what are important here. So again, if we just look at that, oh, I closed the timeline thing, didn't I? Yeah, so like right around the same time, you have this Yedikule Starfort being built. Okay, so in Turkey, this is the oldest Starfort in the world, allegedly. The oldest known Starfort is called Yedikule. Let me go ahead and pull up some slides of that. I think I have one of that. But there's a lot of really awesome imagery on Yedikule. So definitely look into Yedikule if you're into Starforts, because supposedly the oldest one. Okay, so let me open this up. Yeah, I got the one slide on it, but it's, you know, awesome, amazing, really quite grandiose, even as far as Starforts go. This one here in Istanbul. And you know that certainly fits the mold, doesn't it? You know, like the older the sites are, the more grandiose they are, the more complex engineering and architecture is, right? So this is Yedikule, if I'm saying that right. Let me just zoom in a bit so y'all maybe can get a little better detail. But oh no, I just drew a line across it. Sorry, wrong button. There we go. Ooh, a little too close there. I mean, just amazing. I think you can probably see a couple little dots that are people, and that's how big this Starfort is. I mean, these Starforts are just huge. The walls are dozens of feet thick, right? Just massive. It's deceptive, um, how massive these Starforts are, right? Just absolutely huge. And again, this is supposedly the oldest one in the world in Istanbul, Turkey. Okay. Um, Built in 1458 on the commission of the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II, this 7-tower complex was created by adding 3 new towers and fully enclosing a section of the ancient walls of Constantinople, including the 2 twin towers that originally constituted the triumphal Golden Gate, right? And isn't it kind of just funny that we do have that Golden Gate Bridge in San Fran, right? Now, again, 1450 going over to Peru, most recent archaeologists believe that Machu Picchu was constructed as an estate for the Inca Emperor Pachacuti. Okay. Now, oh, and I went backwards there. I'm sorry, y'all. So just delete out what I just said. I went the wrong way on this stupid timeline. Okay. So now we're going from 1450 Peru, which is the construction of Machu Picchu, to about a little less than 100 years later, also in Peru, there is the Fuerte del Real Felipe, and that's in Peru. It's a Starfort. So let me pull this one up for you. Bear with me. Got to close some of these windows here. Oh wait, so yeah, there it is. Duh. I think I'm getting more and more retarded as the days go by, y'all. I'm so sorry. So there's the Starfort, Fuerte de la Real Felipe. So again, this is 1535. Now, another 100 years later, we have 120-ish years later, we have the oldest Starfort in the United States, which is the Castillo de San Marcos. And I got a slide of that as well. So let's pull that up, getting this stuff out of the way. There we go. Castillo de San Marcos, St. Augustine, Florida. This is the one I mentioned a couple weeks ago, built out of that coquina stone, which is very rare. It's like a sandstone mixed with like shell fragments and different, sea life stuffs or whatever. But that's what they built this out of. So like, this worldwide civilization that was building these megalithic sites prior to our agreed history, it definitely seems that they had the capacity to work with pretty much frickin' any kind of stone that they wanted, like whatever was available. And they just, they wanted to make sure that it was something that was going to last, based on the conditions of the area. So what better place to go than locally, right? So like for this one, the Castillo de San Marcos, they use that coquina stone because look, I mean, you can't really tell, but if you look at the, right where the Starfort butts up against the water there, they've got a retaining wall that's right up against the water. And you know how hard it is to build stuff like that that's going to last forever, basically? But again, so this one here, although it is allegedly the oldest Starfort in the United States, it's not as old as this Fuerte del Felipe in Peru, which is like over 100 years older, allegedly. But to me, while these aren't exactly the same, granted, there's a similarity here, right? But I don't know. It certainly couldn't have been the same people building these two forts. One of them's in Peru from the 1500s, and one of them is in Florida from 1672, allegedly, according to the official narrative. So I don't know. And they're, the thing about these Starforts is they're everywhere. They're not just in a couple of places. These fucking freaking things are everywhere. We have another Starfort, so we'll go forward another almost 100 years, so 1731, and in Canada, so we're continuing west from Greenland, we've got the Prince of Wales fort in Churchill, Manitoba, built between 1731 and 1711. And I'm pretty sure I've got a slide of that as well. Yeah. Yeah, there's the Prince of Wales. And again, it's this one definitely seems abandoned, but deceptively large. And I don't know the dimensions on this. I could be wrong, but this thing looks really small as far as Starforts go. I mean, you can see right here, there's a cannon. I don't know how big those cannons are. So this Starfort here certainly isn't as grandiose as the way older one. And it's not even as grandiose as the one that's 100 years older. So even in the case of Starforts, I mean, this is circumstantial, but we see a de-evolution, right? Instead of a progression of Starforts getting better and better over time, I mean, they're getting worse and smaller. I mean, probably not in every example, but this anecdotally sort of circumstantial example, we have this clear de-evolution of the architectural prowess of these builders. Not saying that they were the same builders, couldn't be, right? Because these are hundreds of years apart, these Starforts. But, the historical narrative claims that these Starforts were built as military garrisons, but I don't know. In the video that I did about the Tartarian crypts and catacombs, something that I found that was really interesting, especially with the Castillo de San Marcos, was that this one in St. Augustine was built as a replacement for a wooden garrison. And they had many wooden garrisons across the Spanish territories of that time, that were burned down by British soldiers, right? So they were burned down by British Navy or whatever. And so Castillo de San Marcos was allegedly built as a replacement for one of these wooden garrisons that was burned down. However, according to the mainstream official narrative, 150 years earlier, the same government, so the Spanish, allegedly built this crypt deep underground with stones, right? So, like, the point that didn't make sense to me is they were building military garrisons out of stone reactively as an afterthought because their wooden forts were burned down. But they were building bone pits for the dead out of, stone, like big megalithic stones deep underground. So, like, it just doesn't make sense why they would put so much effort into a bone pit but only build their military garrisons out of stone as an afterthought. So if you haven't caught that video, definitely check it out. Tartaric Crypts. It's from about a year or two ago, but interesting stuff there. And it is all connected in a way, isn't it? Okay, so continuing on with the timeline, it wasn't until 1926 that excavations discovered the foundations of that Gardar Cathedral ruins and the surrounding Norse buildings. And we mentioned that earlier. So let me open these slides back up. Yeah, so there's that Gardar permanently closed, right? But yeah, so this wasn't discovered until 1926 by European eyes. And again, it's just weird to me, man. It's weird that something can be built in the 1100s and then discovered, destroyed, buried under mud in the 1920s, but we don't know who destroyed it or why. Like, I would like to know, and again, maybe I'm missing something big here, but if anybody knows exactly what is supposed to have happened to this Gardar Cathedral, because again, according to Google AI, it wasn't destroyed. It was built and then later on discovered as ruins underneath meters of mud. So it was excavated. It wasn't destroyed. It went extinct or something is the language that it used, right? I mean, how stupid is that? I don't get it, y'all. But, maybe I'm just stupid. I don't know. By the way, this stream is also brought to you by Flat Earth Farms. Dankso Fire, you'll realize the Earth is flat. Buy some for your globe-tard friends at select distribution centers in California. So going back to Machu Picchu, and just digest all of this with me, you guys. Again, I'm not trying to make any grand overarching points, but I'm trying to digest all of this because I don't know what to make of a lot of it. I really don't. But going back to Machu Picchu, so let me close out these slides. I can't bog my memory down or this stream will crash and my computer will fry. So let's go back to Machu Picchu in Peru. Oh, and you know what? I've actually got something way better than slides for Machu Picchu. So let me run this in the background. There we go. Yeah, there it is. So in the high mountains of Peru, at an elevation of nearly 8,000 feet above sea curve level, lies the ancient, beautiful enigma called Machu Picchu, which means, according to internet sources, old peak or like old mountain. This is kind of hilarious too, but when I started researching for this video, I was apparently going by an AI generated search result, like right off the bat. And this search result was like one of these AI hallucinations, totally. So I started basing my research on this AI hallucination. For when I prompted the query, what does Machu Picchu mean in English? And I'm going to quote the AI verbatim here. It said, quote, Machu denotes old. Picchu, appropriately, is defined as both pyramid and chewed coca leaves. And I'm like, and I like went with that for probably an hour. I'm like, wow, Machu Picchu means something about chewed coca leaves? That's so interesting. And I found that hallucination interesting. Again, AI hallucination. The part about the chewed coca leaves, for those of you who don't know, coca leaves are amongst the ingredients in Coca-Cola's like OG recipe. For those of you who still don't know, we're talking about the plant indigenous to South America that people extract and distill to make that yayo or that perico. And for that last dude who still doesn't know what I'm referring to, according to this hilarious AI hallucination, Machu Picchu means old chewed up cocaine leaf pyramid mountain. So this hubris example of AI powering Google's search engine speaks to a much larger problem that is sort of beyond the scope of this stream. However, suffice to say that so much content on YouTube is clearly being written, directed, performed, edited, posted, monitored, and interacted with the viewers by AI, based on hallucinations generated by AI sometimes, which nobody at the wheel bothers to fact check or even apply like a modicum of rational thought towards. These claims made by AI ranging in accuracy from like very accurate to insane hallucinations. Although the AI may present instances of either very proudly and very like confidently, uh, while the end product of this completely AI generated content is obviously far less valuable, far less cogent or like coherent than something created by an actual human being. Many people, especially younger audiences, may actually lack the discernment to differentiate between quality factual content and ludicrously ridiculous content created using unfiltered, often imaginary information dreamed up by AI during these aforementioned hallucinations. These points render it difficult for young, average YouTube viewers to determine what's real, what's true. Sure, but it also has the far more devastating effect upon normal human content creators who simply can't compete with content which seems to be of a high quality and seems to be very well thought out and even driving towards some profound point in the end. But indeed, these AI generated videos just drone on and on about convoluted, abstract videos and abstract topics, which ultimately teach the viewer nothing of import, fail to expose any sort of interesting point, and are, in the end, just a big fat waste of time. This AI generated drivel appears to be of a high standard, and that is the end of it. And of course, YouTube pushes that garbage out to their end users like there's no fucking tomorrow, because it is just a huge waste of time. And that will certainly not make you any wiser and might actually make you several shades of stupider. So, of course, YouTube's going to push it out in your face, shove it down your damn throat, aren't they? An AI powered channel can crank out professional looking content narrated by very professional sounding voice actors. Well, until they say something very confidently that makes absolutely zero sense on any level, like over and over and over again during a 5-minute video. But they can crank out this gorgeous looking waste of time content faster than any normal human being with a point to make can put his damn pants on in the morning. While this AI created content might seem to make really profound or like complex points, if you actually listen to the words that they're saying, as opposed to like just being sucked in by the neuro-linguistic programming and seemingly like high production value, switching your brain over to like an alpha state, you'll find that this AI generated content is just a big fat fucking waste of time, quite frankly, but I digress. But again, this particular AI hallucination about the definition of Machu Picchu, meaning old pyramid of chewed cocaine leaves, is actually prescient, as it is definitely worth mentioning the connection between South American cocaine and ancient Egypt, a fact that has yet to receive any sort of cogent or valid explanation several decades on. So the Egyptian mummy of Henut Tawi was found to have nicotine as well as cocaine in its system when tested by German toxicologists. In 1992, this Svetlana Balabanova discovered traces of cocaine, hashish to boot, and nicotine on Henut Tao's hair, as well as in the hair of several other mummies in the same museum, which is significant in that the only source for cocaine and nicotine had at the time been considered to be the coca and tobacco plants. Of course, there's no possible way, according to the mainstream narrative, that ancient Egyptians and ancient South American civilizations could have ever possibly have interacted or like traded with one another or like sold drugs to one another. Seeing how the American continents were not even discovered until, allegedly like hundreds or even thousands of years later, after the way after the fall of the Egyptian civilization. So, how was cocaine winding up in the hair of ancient Egyptian mummies? Clearly, there's something really big being hidden in the ancient Americas. Whether we're talking about the alleged pyramids and hidden civilization deep in the forbidden zones of the Grand Canyon, or the amazing Central American pyramids of the Sun and Moon, strikingly similar to the Egyptian pyramids of the Giza Plateau. It is fairly obvious, especially if you're watching this playlist in order, that much of the infrastructure and underpinning much of the infrastructure underpinning the major cities in the United States and really the whole world almost certainly pre-existed the so-called founded on dates. Now, while we don't really have the luxury of being able to put our finger on exactly what occurred during this apparent mud flood reset and dubious, founding of cities, ostensibly by piping in countless orphans to ultimately, run the factories, shine the shoes, and fight the wars. Whatever it is that we're all missing about ancient American history and thus world history is definitely something huge. Something so big, I would venture to guess that if we knew the actual truth, it would likely seem unbelievable. But alas, the powers that be apparently capitalized on, if not downright triggered, some ancient cataclysm which drastically changed the landscape of the entire world. Deep seabeds were allegedly or apparently transformed into high plains and deserts, while other great land masses were sent to the very depths of the ocean, undiscovered to this very day. After this cataclysm, or a series of cataclysms, this group of people, using the term loosely, hypothetically took over civilization, setting themselves up as sort of a hidden hand, ruling over all aspects of our culture from the shadows. This dark, secretive royalty, apparently filled with psychopaths, are at best figuratively reptilian, perched atop the various proverbial pyramid power structures of this world, lording over we serfs and plebs of the realm with total anonymity, impunity, and carte blanche authority over the most important long-term goals and ambitions of our nations, while certainly not representing the average person, yet playing the role as such, committing evil and atrocities the world over, all in our good name, while we, the American people and the people of the world, are forced into a sort of rat race where we spend the majority of our time working at meaningless jobs that we fucking hate just to make ends meet on basic human necessities in the richest country in the world. Even the most altruistic, law-abiding citizens are seen by default as guilty offenders, according to the corrupt-to-the-core Freemasonic police agencies run by psychopaths and despots. The average person runs a very high risk of eventually being stopped during their travels for absolutely no reason, only to be illegally questioned, harassed, and potentially put in a damn cage like an animal by the unconstitutional militarized police forces for offenses as petty as, well, traveling without the permission of the king, aka improper registration. Um, it doesn't help that we were all convinced as little kids that we live in a free country, stuck to the side of a spinning fucking ball, no less. And, we're convinced that we all have this sort of equal shot at becoming wildly successful in any field that we apply ourselves to. While it is difficult to put your finger on exactly how these various institutionalized scams work, exactly who is benefiting from these scams, like the Fed, and of course, who is the sucker? Spoiler alert, the sucker is me. I mean, it's you. It's us. The sucker is us. Okay, you and me, and anyone who has ever earned or spent a dollar since 1913. In the case of the Fed, or in the case of like the American Dental Association, anyone who has ever been led to drink and bathe in the neurotoxin sodium fluoride, because this corrupt Freemasonic Ivy League organization of dentists on the payroll of the official aluminum manufacturers of the world, they told us that brushing our teeth with this deadly neurotoxin probably might be good for the whiteness of your teeth. And so, like any poisonous oral cosmetic, the next course of action was to force it into upwards of 90% of all domestic municipal water supplies. Drink it, bathe in it, bathe your babies in it, make your tea with it. Indeed, the plan was, and still is to this very day in America, to poison the entire population with a developmental neurotoxin, putting it in our damn water supply while telling us it's for our own good. Were it not for the gravity of this problem and the fact that everyone in America watching this video have suffered, sometimes tremendously, as a direct result of this fluoridization of our water, it might be comical. I mean, come on, how ironic is it to literally poison everyone with an agent proven to encumber our children's development, cause learning disabilities, make people docile, less prone to sharp or rational thought, along with a practically never-ending list of increasingly gnarly effects of fluoride poisoning, especially if taken in higher doses. If you look back on any toothpaste tube that has fluoride in it, you'll find the contact info for the Poison Control Center. Indeed, we've strayed off topic a bit, but suffice to say, this conversation about scientism and the Great Deception always seems to dovetail with the National Fluoride Poisoning Program, as fluoride is, again, a developmental neurotoxin, especially when exposed in small doses over extended periods of time to children. If there was a chemical method to impair our collective ability to think critically, question authority, and rise bravely in the face of systemic oppression, the fluoridization of our water is definitely that chemical method. Where are the class action lawsuits against the American Dental Association or the Global Union of Aluminum Manufacturers who supply the fluoride to our government? For it is a highly toxic, volatile, and persistent chemical that otherwise costs aluminum producers a fortune to properly dispose of. I mean, you got to admit, it's a brilliant business move. I mean, if you're a fucking reptilian shapeshifter from the Crab Nebula, or at least some other variety of non-human, intelligent biological entity, but not a human. I wish I had a clip of They Live to show y'all right now, but I don't. So just picture Rowdy Roddy Piper in your head taking the sunglasses off. But there really is no medical precedent or even anything remotely similar in modern medical history where all people everywhere across all cross sections of metrics, from infant to fucking geriatric, everyone is unilaterally blanket dosed with this manufacturing byproduct that literally has death as a side effect if taken in too large of a dose. The hubris and anti-human component of this particular microcosm of the Great Deception raises a few important points, especially once you realize that I'm not the crazy one here. The mainstream talking heads like Bill Nye, Neil deGrasse, and your science teacher, yes, the crazy one, Mrs. Lake, they are the ones whose rectums chronically envelop their craniums. They are the crazy ones. Firstly, let's highlight the fact that we were all chemically and psychologically groomed for the Great Deception since we were old enough to drink fucking water or absorb water transdermally or even umbilically in utero. In any case, chemically grooming every man, woman, and child for deception is probably one of the most blatant and insidious crimes ever perpetrated on the American people by the hidden hand controllers and the so-called elites. Pardon me. While there is what often appears to be insurmountable evidence to support these claims, why is it still considered a conspiracy theory? I mean, sure, it is uncomfortable at first, that is, to learn that practically everything you've ever thought about humankind's place in the natural universe was definitely necessarily wrong. Not just a little bit wrong or like slightly misguided, but full on, fully balls to the wall wrong. Glove don't fit, must acquit, I'm done wrong. But when one finally arrives at the seemingly unimaginable yet ultimately incontestable realization that the very underpinnings of our most basic and crucial percipients of where we are, and by direct extension, who we are and why we're here, the origins of life, like where the fuck did we come from? All of these sort of existential, oftentimes unanswerable questions, which previous to this astonishing and unprecedented era of revelation, justice, and redemption, we may have felt very comfortable with our comprehension of the world, ourselves, and the extended universe, lying ever beyond our capacity to visit or directly measure in any sort of tangible or physical sense. All of our collective understanding of such things has been completely and absolutely turned on its head when it comes to our actual place in the grand scheme of things. It is among the most liberating and profoundly life-changing realizations that one could ever hope to experience. Our world goes in an instant from this sort of incidental and insignificant sub-mediocre product of happenstance to the center stage of all creation, holding a position of extreme and profound importance in the grand scheme of things. And the supernatural creator of this realm has left his signature everywhere, around us, and within our undying spirit. While it may be difficult, if not impossible, to fully and unambiguously define or quantify all aspects of this incessant star-spangled scam dressed up as the so-called American experiment, but we can definitely see the outline of the giant scam that is the American experiment by the lies that are told. I mean, people just don't go around lying to all generations of children for hundreds of years for like no reason. And so if you were wise to the modus operandi of such psychopathic, solipsistic deceivers, of which history itself appears to be in no short supply, be it within the dubious annals of scientism, the daisy chain of corpo-fascist government puppets, or the purveyors of and apologists for the nonsensical historical narrative, etc., etc., it becomes pretty obvious that exactly what they were trying to hide, again, by the lies that they tell. Anytime one merely humors the official story with any degree of skepticism, as opposed to just gobbling up and regurgitating the claims and fables made by the likes of NASA and their astronauts like Don Pettit, but to actually think about what you're being told and critically scrutinize the tenets therein, following up on any inconsistencies or discrepancies, especially as the truth will never contain an inkling of disparity or inconsistency, whereas a lie or like a false narrative will invariably exhibit such telltale signatures if only studied closely enough, if only given enough time. Since agreed upon history is most certainly filled with such lies, it's really just a matter of time that any time we merely consider what they are claiming with some degree of discernment, and we will continuously find evidence of such contradictions everywhere. Our God given rational discernment is indeed a wonderful thing, which should be cherished, celebrated, and cultivated in our youth. But instead, it is murdered in its crib by the Department of Education and the like. Now, drink break. Smoke them if you got them. We know for certain, one way or another, that the natural indigenous population of the American continents, and we're changing gears, the natural indigenous population of the American continents were wiped out, utterly decimated by the invading European pseudo-Christians. Not only were their people tricked into compromises with the devil, not only were they definitely enslaved, definitely kidnapped, and human trafficked by the so-called Christian invaders, the natives were definitely pushed off their lands, their culture and languages scourged from existence in some cases. History framed the American natives as savages and simpletons who lacked any technology or modern understanding or even a pair of pants among the lot of them. Allegedly, when the Europeans began to arrive in America, which they believed was like Japan or India at the time, the entire continent of savage simpletons were supposedly running around naked in the woods with feathers in their hats, literally lacking the technology of written language or even the wheel or the luxury of like buttons and things like that. According to this carved in stone portrait of pre-colonial America, it is simply not possible that the native savage simpletons were capable of achieving anything like planning or constructing something resembling a city or like massive complex megaliths as we see all over America. And in one particular case, the beautiful mystery of Machu Picchu. Before we begin delving into some of the historical narrative and Incan legends surrounding Machu Picchu, I first wanted to comment on a big fat elephant in the room when it comes to any pre-colonial American natives. Now, it is claimed that the site of Machu Picchu is a huge mystery as to like who built it and why, what happened to the people that built it. How can we decipher some of their dead languages without the benefit of some American equivalent to like the Rosetta Stone? But is it really that big of a mystery? I mean, we can theorize all day, but how about this one? The so-called Christian invaders intentionally wiped out the natives, stole their children and women into slavery, took credit for their buildings and infrastructure, and labeled the rightful owners and heirs of the land as savages in the history books. Try that one out for size. I think it fits. I don't know. What do y'all think? Let me know in the comments. Stephen Shuck says there's evil people in high places that hide the truth of God's creation. Yeah, indeed, I agree. Sea Lightning, what's up, man? You had mentioned a star fort in the beginning, or like even prior to the beginning. I'm not opposed to looking at it. I just don't. I haven't looked at it before, and I don't have anything prepared for it, and I don't want to fry my computer. But okay, so of all that stuff we just talked about, and I showed y'all a bunch of slides and things. Um, Here's Yedikule, and I'm probably saying that wrong. Yedikule Fortress, but I think this is like an AI recreation of what it may have looked like in its prime. So I thought this was interesting because I don't know how true this is, but this comes from like the Visit Turkey homepage. So like Turkey's Department of Tourism or whatever. So this is like an official image. So I don't know if this image is what it may have once looked like, um, or if it's just simply AI nonsense. But let me put this up for y'all because I thought this was very interesting. Sorry. Takes a minute. It's all right. There it is. So again, this image I pulled straight from like visitturkey.com. So I'm not claiming this is any sort of real image. It definitely looks like CGI to me, but this is that this is allegedly some sort of an image of that fort that I just mentioned. Pretty awesome. I mean, if that's what it may have once looked like, why would they like cut all of those beautiful domes off? Like, I don't know. It seems like they did a lot of that. Like they removed um, the antiquitech, if you will, from the tops of a lot of these structures. But I thought that was a beautiful image. I don't think it's real though. But again, it came right from visitturkey.com or whatever. So kind of bizarre. But so this is the one we're talking about here. So I'll leave that up. And let me go over to this article here. So that's Yedikule, and I'm probably saying that wrong. Istanbul. Toiki. So the Yedikule Fortress, the Fortress of the Seven Towers, stands as a formidable historical structure in the Yedikule neighborhood of Fatih, Istanbul. Built in 1458 by Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II, the fortress is an architectural marvel that has witnessed centuries of history, seeing various roles from royal treasury to state prison. This article explores the rich history, architectural features, and cultural significance of the Yedikule Fortress, making it an engaging read for travel enthusiasts and history buffs alike. The Yedikule Fortress was commissioned by Sultan Mehmed II shortly after the conquest of Constantinople. The complex was created by incorporating um, three new towers into the ancient walls of Constantinople, specifically around the triumphal Golden Gate built by Roman emperors Theodosius I and II, but not necessarily in that order. No, I'm just kidding. This strategic location at the principal entrance to the city allowed the fortress to control access and protect the newly conquered capital. Initially, Yedikule served as the official treasury for the Ottoman Empire. And if I'm not mistaken, the Ottoman Empire is like that's what Rome became when like Rome fell in Italy or whatever. They just basically moved, they moved their headquarters and became the Ottoman Empire. Unless I'm just having a brain fart here, I believe that's what that is, right? So each of its seven towers housed precious goods, documents, armory, coins, and gold, silver ingots. So basically, like the shit you find in a role playing game. The fortress was heavily guarded to protect these valuable assets, reflecting its critical role in the empire's financial and military strategy. The Yedikule Fortress features a unique architectural design, combining elements of Byzantine and Ottoman construction. Oh, Byzantine was the one I was thinking, not Ottoman. So everything that other John said a minute ago was bullshit. Right. The fortress is nearly pentagonal, with the two twin towers of the Golden Gate forming parts of its structure. Three additional round towers were added by the Ottomans, creating an imposing fortification. The fortress courtyard contains a small domed mosque known as the Conqueror's Mosque, making the center of this symmetrical layout. The fortress's seven towers are each named and served various functions throughout history. The walls connecting these towers are thick and robust, designed to withstand attacks and protect the treasures within. This formidable design made Yedikule a symbol of strength and resilience in the Ottoman Empire. Over the centuries, Yedikule Fortress gained notoriety as a state prison. It housed many notable prisoners, including ambassadors from enemy states, political rivals, and victims of palace intrigue. What does that mean? Victims of palace intrigue? Wait a minute. Is that like a a cliche that I'm not getting? What does victims of palace intrigue mean? Define. Okay, so here's the AI overview, and you guys tell me if this is a hallucination or not. Define victims of palace intrigue. A victim of palace intrigue, and this is AI overview. A victim of palace intrigue is someone who is harmed by a secret plan, especially one that is made to cause harm. You don't say. For example, Fitzpatrick, beset on all sides by palace intrigues, becomes increasingly paranoid. The term palace intrigue is often used to describe behind the scenes political machinations. It can also be used as a critique of how journalists cover politics, suggesting that they focus too much on gossipy details instead of policy issues. I don't know, man. Okay, so Slate.com says palace intrigue is an enticing expression to describe such behind the scenes machinations, and commentators have had a hard time avoiding it in the Trump era. So, how can you die of palace intrigue? I don't get it, man. Maybe am I missing something here, chat? Please tell me. I'm gonna take a break. Y'all have to explain this to me when I come back, dude. For real. You gotta tell me. Amongst its most famous prisoners were Sultan Osman II, who was imprisoned and executed by the Janissaries in 1622, and da 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 da. Okay. I mean, we don't need to know. What about it in modern times? Decline of the Ottoman Empire. Yedikule fell into despair, but it was later restored by the Turkish Ministry of Culture. In 1895, the fortress was converted into a museum, preserving its historical significance for future generations. Recent restorations have further enhanced its appearance, making it a picturesque historical site in Istanbul. Okay, so there's that, but let's pull up the more modern image of it, because again, that's pretty damn awesome right there. If that's what it actually used to look like, very impressive. Very impressive indeed. They don't make them like they used to, huh? But let's see. Yeah, so here's the modern, there's the modern image of it. It's like they just took a damn saw and cut the tops of it off or something. And you can tell, actually, yeah, I think this may be fairly accurate, because where this giant like castle stands right here, um, you can kind of tell that there was something there. What did they do to it? They stripped this thing down to nothing, didn't they? And that's what it looks like. There's so many examples of this where, like, if you read the ancient, like the legends about El Dorado, like the city of gold, and then you just kind of juxtapose that with the American gold rush, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? And indeed, you know, even the Great Pyramids in Giza, they say that they were topped with precious metals. I think at least one of them being gold, right? Pretty amazing. Okay, so going back, we were done with the Yedikule article, but then there was another one I wanted to share with you guys, and maybe y'all can help me digest all of this stuff as we go. Now I did mention briefly the Prince of Wales Starfort in Manitoba, Canada. I didn't find any Starforts in Greenland, which interesting. Maybe there are some, but when I did search for Starfort Greenland, I found the Prince of Wales Fort in Churchill, Manitoba. So let me pull that one up. There she is. Okay. So in 1610, English explorer Henry Hudson, who was searching for the Northwest Passage. So I kind of got to, let me just pull this map up. Hold on. I got to pull up a map for y'all real fast. Well, the resolution is really bad there, isn't it? Okay. But so like the Northwest Passages would be like in this area here. So they were trying to see if they could find a way to, you know, to circumnavigate. You know what I mean? So when they're talking about Northwest Passage, they were trying to go like around the north side of North America, right? Unless I'm way off on that, I believe that's what they're talking about there. So there you go. My article again, sorry. So he was searching for the Northwest Passage. He sailed around Greenland in his ship called the Discovery and found what he named Hudson Bay in Canada. His ship was trapped in ice over the winter, and once it was freed, he announced that he would like to continue exploring his bay. The crew mutinied in June of 1611, shoved him and a few others into a little boat, which was then set adrift, and the Discovery then sailed home. Henry Hudson was never heard from again. Excited by word of Hudson's find and its notional uses for trade and settlement, the company known as the Governor and Company of Adventurers of England Trading into the Hudson Bay. So that's the name of the company. I'm going to say this is the name of the company. The Governor and Company of Adventurers of England Trading into Hudson's Bay. That's the name of the company. Was formed in 1670. Fortunately, the name was soon shortened to the Hudson's Bay Company. I wonder why. The company granted exclusive trading rights in Rupert's Land. The company, granted exclusive trading rights in Rupert's Land by the British Crown, was to eventually become the ruling authority in up to 15% of North America before the advent of European-based colonies and states. France naturally disliked this concept and sent numerous military expeditions into the region to challenge the company, but officially gave up any claim to Rupert's land in the Treaty of Utrecht, 1713, which somewhat ended the War of Spanish Succession, which was 1701 to 1714. Elements of the Hudson's Bay Company first sailed into the Churchill River in 1686, trading in furs with the Cree Indians, Native Americans. The region apparently became worth defending in 1717 when Churchill River Post, a stockade made of timber, was built 8 kilometers from the mouth of the river. In 1719, the post was renamed Prince of Wales Fort. Concerned with the French attack by sea, the company began work on the current stone fort further up the river at Eskimo Point in 1739. I mean, I guess these people never learn, right? Like if you build a fort out of wood, they're just going to burn it down. So you've got to go back and build it out of stone. The problem is, like, these people didn't have any sort of technology according to the mainstream narrative. Like, it really is quite baffling. But back to this article here, sorry. Conditions in Prince of Wales Fort were harsh. It took 4 cartloads of wood to heat the living quarters for 1 day during the winter. So much of the fort's garrison spent a majority of their time chopping down trees. The daily struggle to just survive while still trading with the locals and sending furs back to England on a regular basis lengthened the fort's construction period until 1771. So they couldn't just slap it up all willy-nilly like they supposedly do, all the time. No, it took them, 20, 30 years? I'm going to run into the other room real quick and drain the main one, and I'll be right back. You guys sit tight. I will run a little clip in the background as I go. I think Lily's been smoking weed in here, man. It smells just like some weed in here. There we go. All right, right back to it. Sorry, Joe. In 1782, 3 French ships with about 300 men sailed towards Prince of Wales Fort in a menacing fashion. How does one sail menacingly? I'd love to see like a an AI rendering of what that looks like. Anybody that has access to Mid-Journey or whatever, put that in as a prompt, yo. You heard? So the prompt would be 300 Frenchmen sail menacingly. Sail in a menacing fashion. Anyway, I don't know. I'm a reread. Forget me. The fort's commander, Samuel Hearn, whose claim to fame was as the first European to make the trek across Canada to the Arctic Ocean, he realized that the 39 men who were manning the fort would likely not fare well against the French, and he immediately surrendered. Hearn and 32 of his men were permitted to sail back to England, and the French blew up the fort's buildings and spiked its guns. So, like this one here, they're saying that the French blew up its buildings and spiked its guns. At least there's some sort of an explanation as to why exactly this fort is in ruins, and I wouldn't say that it's nearly as bad of ruins as the that other one we looked at a minute ago, the Gardar in Greenland. I don't know. Anyways, Hearn returned to the fort the following year, but found it unusable, a state in which it remained until 1934. The fort was then recognized as a location of national significance, you think, in 1920. But it wasn't until the railroad reached Churchill in 1929 that enough of a workforce could be assembled to get a reconstructive effort underway. Prince of Wales Fort's cannon were dug up and remounted, and the walls and buildings were repaired. I think that's a very interesting quote. And again, if I didn't mention this before, I'm quoting from starforts.com/Prince of Wales. So, I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a trusted source according to the mainstream sorts of people, but I have found that starforts.com is pretty damn accurate in terms of, it's the claims that it makes in the past. So, but again, it's just sort of as a disclaimer, take this with a pinch of salt, I guess, just because that is very interesting, that bit that we just read. And the reason I find that so interesting is it took them to get the railroad back up and running before they could even start reconstructing it, right? And if you didn't know, putting lipstick on a pig is a lot easier than giving birth to the pig, right? You follow my analogy? So if it took modern men, or at that point in time, modern men, a railroad to just fix the thing up a bit, then how did the ancients build the damn thing without a railroad to begin with? It's these sorts of questions you have to ask yourself, right? And maybe not you guys watching this, but the everyday normie McNormalsons or whatever that think that the official historical narrative isn't that big of a problem. But what about that? Like, if they couldn't even begin fixing the thing up without the railroad, then how did they build the damn thing? And when did we say that it was built? Let's see. Let me open up my timeline. I did at least get that one on there, I think. Oh, well, 1731, right? Oh, I didn't get it on there. Prince of Wales Star Fort built 1731 to 1771. Anyways, okay. And I will put links to these articles, this one and the previous one. I will put links in the description. The one that I wanted to definitely read you guys next is Gardar. Or did we do Gardar? Yeah, let me just read you guys a bit about Gardar. So let me pull up the slide for that as well. And again, Gardar's in Greenland, right? Okay, so this is coming straight from Wikipedia. Gardar Cathedral, known formally as the Cathedral of St. Nicholas. It was a Roman Catholic cathedral church located in Gardar, situated in Igaliku, Greenland. It was the first cathedral erected in the Americas and is among the oldest surviving examples of European architecture in the Americas. The cathedral was reduced to ruins, and nowadays only its foundation can be seen. According to the history, and again, this is wikipedia.org, this cathedral was founded by Greenland's first bishop, Arnaldur, in 1126, built of red sandstone quarried from a neighboring hillside in a cruciform, the only known church to be built in this way in Greenland. This cathedral was dedicated to the patron saint of sailors, Saint Nicholas. Changes to and you know, let's just look into a bit about Saint Nicholas, if y'all don't mind. Saint Nicholas of Myra, also known as Nicholas of Bari, was an early Christian bishop of Greek descent from the maritime city of Patara in Anatolia during the time of the Roman Empire. Because of the many miracles attributed to his intercession, he is also known as Nicholas the Wonder Worker. Saint Nicholas is the patron saint of sailors, merchants, archers, repentant thieves, children, brewers, pawnbrokers, toy makers, unmarried people, and students in various cities and countries around Europe. He's a saint of a lot of damn things, is what they're trying to tell you. His reputation evolved among the pious, as was common for early Christian saints, and his legendary habit of secret gift giving gave rise to the folklore of Santa Claus, Saint Nick, through Sinterklaas. I mentioned before that, yeah, you do have this sort of origin of Santa Claus with this guy, Saint Nicholas, but like the character that is like the fat red suit wearing dude with a white beard that flies a sleigh around with reindeer. From what I gather, that sort of imagery was invented by Coca-Cola Company as a marketing campaign. I don't know how right that is, but if that's true, that's well done, Coca-Cola. Anyway, little is known about the historical St. Nicholas. The earliest accounts of his life were written centuries after his death and probably contain legendary elaborations. He's said to have been born in an Anatolian seaport of Petara, Lycia, in Asia Minor, to wealthy Christian parents. In one of the earliest attested and most famous incidents from his life, he's said to have rescued 3 girls from being forced into prostitution by dropping a sack of gold coins through the window of their house each night for 3 nights so their father could pay a dowry for each of them. Other early stories tell of him calming a storm at sea, saving 3 innocent soldiers from wrongful execution, and chopping down a tree possessed by a demon. In his youth, he's said to have made a pilgrimage to Egypt and Syria Palestina. Shortly after his return, he became Bishop of Myra. He was later cast into prison during the persecution of Diocletian, but was then released after the accession of Constantine. An early list makes him an attendee of the First Council of Nicaea in 325, but he's never mentioned in any writings by people who were at the council. Late, unsubstantiated legends claim that he was temporarily defrocked and imprisoned during the council for slapping the heretic Arius. And defrocked means they like bent him over and no, I'm kidding. They like took away his priesthood, I think, temporarily. Another famous late legend tells how St. Nicholas, resurrected 3 children who had been murdered and pickled in brine by a butcher planning to sell them as pork during a famine. Dude. Fewer than 200 years after St. Nicholas's death, the St. Nicholas Church was built in Myra under the orders of Theodosius II, after the site of the church where he had served as a bishop. Over the site of the church where he had served as a bishop, and his remains were moved to a sarcophagus in that church. In 1087, while the Greek Christian inhabitants of the region were subjugated by the newly arrived Muslim Seljuk Turks, and soon after the beginning of the East-West Schism, a group of merchants from the Italian city of Bari removed the major bones of Nicholas's skeleton from his sarcophagus in the church without authorization and brought it to them in their hometown, where they are now enshrined in the Basilica di San Nicola. The remaining bone fragments from the sarcophagus were later removed by Venetian sailors and taken to Venice for the First Crusade. Wow. That's pretty crazy though, man. Like those saints, I mean, can you imagine that sort of celebrity? What possesses people to endow such celebration or celebrity on people like St. Nicholas? I mean, it's one thing to spend $150 on a ticket to see somebody, right? You'd say that and like $50 on their t-shirts and shit. You'd say that person's a super fan, right? But to like go and rob someone's bones and steal them and like bring their bone, like, dude, that is taking fandom and standom to a whole new level, right? Wow. So definitely, I definitely take Wiki with a grain of salt as well. I mean, I do not think that Wiki is the unadulterated source of truth in the world, but it is a good reflection of the official narrative, right? So definitely take it with a pinch of salt as well, though. Here we go, and I have another article to go through with you guys. So let's. This is from the urbanprehistorian.wordpress.com. And again, when I get done with this stream, I will be putting links to all of these articles into the description. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up a different set of slides for y'all. Well, no, you know what? Actually, though, I can leave this one up because this is about Greenland as well. And in case you're wondering, the Gardar Cathedral ruins is permanently closed. It's a shame. Wonder if she blows. Okay. Okay, so again, the urbanprehistorian.wordpress.com. This is called Nothing BC. There was no prehistory in Iceland. Nothing before Christ. Yet, when this author recently visited for the first time, it became apparent to him that the landscape, both urban and rural, has a prehistoric quality to it. This is an island that is defined by extremes of stone, and this has thrown up, in some cases literally, strange and beautiful arrangements of rocks. But not all of these megaliths are natural. There are standing stones, dolmen, which was the word I was looking for at the beginning of the stream, these dolmen, stone circles too, commonplace in lay-bys parks, I'm sorry, commonplace in lay-bys. I'm sorry, let me share this article with you guys just so you can see that I'm not so stupid. Hold on. I'm sorry. Bear with me, y'all. There's the one I was looking for. Okay. So, there are standing stones, dolmen, stone circles too, commonplace in lay-bys, parks, street corners, and on roadsides and pavements. This is immediately apparent on the road leaving the airport, with huge stone blocks with stone heads, stone people, looming over the roadsides of Keflavik. Okay, so there is also something deeply prehistoric about the belief systems of the Icelanders, whether the overplayed for the tourist stuff about the fairies and little people, or the Norse sagas and stories of little g gods, men, and giants. The land has been ripped apart and reborn by prehistoric and geological forces shaping the people just as much as the people shape the land with stories, place names, and monuments. Little people live in the stones. Giants and gods fought with stones. People became stones and are stones. The stones lived too once as well, oozing down the sides of volcanoes, spewed across the land and swept up in floodwaters, scraped and shaped by ice. Here, prehistory is a living condition, not a distant past, not even a real past, just an ever present quality in the land seems to have, or just an ever present quality the land seems to have. The standing stones that this author saw often reflected the grain of the land, dark gray basaltic blocks with square or pentagonal or hexagonal profiles. Here's another one. Let me share this too. Wow. Damn, there's another one. Let me show you all this one too. I promise. I'll just be a second here. Okay, so these and here's a cairn. I'll put a cairn on there too, so y'all know what the hell I meant when I said a cairn. Not a cairn, but a cairn. There. So there you go, cairn. Rocks are still on the move, according to this. Oh, wait, shit, I'm reading the wrong article here. Where did my article go? Yeah. Continually being rearranged and juxtaposed, like put to use to memorialize, to pin information boards to, as boundary markers, to decorate hotel forecourts and car parks. In some cases, it is unclear if the stones are in situ and have been utilized where they were found, a kind of expedient architecture, or if they were deliberately moved and erected there. But in some cases, formal monuments appear to have been constructed, such as the German memorial on the edge of the town of Vik. There, a stone circle with a central monolith has been constructed on the edge of a black sand beach with the objective of remembering seamen who died on one or more German fishing boats off the coast of Iceland and to thank locals for trying to help. So let me just show that off to y'all real quick. That's pretty cool. Never seen anything quite like that before. The 9 external stones graded for height are gray, hexagonally cooled magma columns, similar to those illustrated above, while the central block is a vibrant orange sandstone boulder with metal plates attached to it. But perhaps the most dramatic and perplexing megalith monument that this author spotted in. Oh, well, shit, this is Iceland. Why was I thinking this was Greenland? Wow. Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. Still cool. Um, they're perhaps the most dramatic and perplexing megalith monument that this author spotted in Iceland was in the surprising surroundings of a small fishing town on the southeastern coast of the Janes Peninsula. On driving through the center of town, it was clear that there were a lot of mounds and standing stones by the roadside, concentrated mostly on roundabouts and at road junctions. So here we go. That's pretty cool. Let's show y'all what dude's talking about here. On one side of the road was something altogether more coherent and remarkable, an extensive reconstruction. Uh, an extensive reconstruction of a passage grave, complete with a dolmen at the entrance. This author spent some time wandering through this complex of stone walls, earthworks, standing stones, and passages, marveling that such a structure should be built here, in a country with no prehistory, in a technical sense, and certainly no tradition of megalithic passage graves. No signs or information were evident anywhere to explain what was going on here. This was a most unexpected megalith. So I'm going to share his picture with you as well. It's very cool. So just basically standing there in the middle of I mean, obviously, people aren't just going to go and put something like that together for no reason. I mean, why? What's the point? But the fact that there's no sort of like plaque or explanation for what it is, it's kind of interesting, I think. But it definitely looks like it's founded way deeper than the tops of those hills, right? So this thing was what? Excavated, right? I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like this thing was excavated. So it ostensibly was buried under a bunch of mud until somebody dug it up. Again, this is in Iceland. But it does seem like this mud flood phenomenon is just everywhere. It's all over the world. Anyway, so going back to that article, again, this is from the urbanprehistorian.wordpress.com. The only thing that this author, vlogger, could find out about this monument online was from a web page about Viking pagan practices, which noted, and he did leave a hyperlink here, but he's quoting that website that he found something about this dolmen that we're looking at here. In this place that I can't pronounce in Iceland, a modern interpretation of a pagan temple has been erected. While it's not clear that the designers and builders of this modern temple had any special insight into how pagan temples were built during the Norse era, it is fun to see all the motifs from the various temple descriptions brought together into one structure. And there's just a ton of very cool pictures here on this WordPress site. But so end quote on that passage there. But it seemed clear that the passage grave has been built in a Nordic tradition, with walling, for instance, reminiscent of Danish passage graves. Although some aspects of the monument reminded this author of Neolithic tombs in Brittany as well. So let me share an image of this as well. So that's one of these passage graves that he's talking about, if you didn't know. Hold on a second. What do you want? No, I'm streaming right now. You're going to wait. I'm almost done. It seems clear that the passage grave, although some aspect of the monument reminded him of the Neolithic tombs in Brittany as well. The reconstruction seems to conflate various different megalithic monument elements, and not just Neolithic tombs. There are forecourts, recesses, orthostats, a stone cist, standing stones, mounds, cairns, a trilithon, and facades, and a very narrow and long, low passage that he could not get through. It was a right jumble of all sorts of things, in other words. The monument lay open and exposed, bisected by pathways and pavements, with a road running along one side. Weeds grew from paved surfaces, and graffiti was evident on the dolmen or trilithon setting. This was an altogether unremarkable place, typically quiet for Iceland, and this faux tomb almost did not seem out of place and out of time. Well, very interesting. Let me know what you guys think about that. So I think that covers everything I wanted to cover today. RJ Cooper agreed, man. I want to pee whatever, 900, 1,000. I don't care. I'm with you, man. Can you see a semi truck 500 miles away? Nimble Horse, I don't think so, man. If you can, I want some of what you're taking, brother. For real. You know what I mean? The angular resolution of the eyes and all that. Yeah. See, Lightning says, RJ Cooper, it's cheaper to buy $180 Celestron binoculars and a 20 by 80 power and mount your cell phone camera to it. I don't know, man. That seems like a lot of work. I don't know. Somebody, I don't remember who it was, but it was some kind of camera expert was explaining why the P900 and even the P1000 digital zoom is not all that great. I don't know. Even though it is great, they're like, you know, these technical babble guys have like technical reasons why it's not all that great. I don't know. Anyway, that wraps it up, you guys. I'm definitely about done here. I totally forgot to post up my content from last month onto Patreon, so I'm going to be double loading everything onto Patreon this month. And for those of you guys out there that would like to support the channel, definitely check out our Patreon page. Links are below. And if you would like to directly support and help out the channel, links for PayPal, Patreon, Venmo, all that stuff are below. So I hope that y'all have enjoyed this stream today. I definitely enjoyed hanging out with you guys. I hope y'all are having a good holiday season so far. And I will see you very soon in the next one. God bless you guys. And as always, spread the word, spread the world, and peace out, everybody. Y'all be good.